Over the years, sociologists, psychologists, and economists have done a lot of research on sex ratios and their impact. The findings are really consistent. When men are the ones in oversupply, or women in undersupply, depending on your perspective, the dating culture is more likely to emphasize courtship and monogamy and romance. The dating culture is more traditional. Men must make a long-term commitment in order to attract a wife, and thus men actually have an evolutionary incentive to be good husbands and fathers.
You know how when you used to go on deployments, it's always more men. So let's say you get a base full of 2,500 people. Out of that 2,500 people, there may be 500 women. You're not supposed to be sneaking in while you deployed if General Order Number 1 was in. However, out of that 500 women, 400 of them are unattractive in the States. But when they go to the desert, they become 10s. Why is that? Because the women are in short supply. So men try and lock them down so they can have somebody to sneak in with because there's such a short supply.
As a result, monogamy is embraced and divorce is less common. When it comes to studying sex ratios, college campuses are perfect case studies because colleges operate as self-contained dating pools. In other words, students tend to date other students. And while the average college campus these days is 57% female, that's 4 women for every 3 men, there are, of course, still colleges out there that have more men than women. One of them is California Institute of Technology, better known as Caltech, in Pasadena, California. Caltech is 59% male, which is essentially 3 women for every 2 men.
It's still about the same, but it just decreased a little bit. It's 54% men now and 46% women who are enrolled in Caltech. So it's still essentially the same.
I paid a visit to Caltech while researching my book. With the help of the editor of Caltech's student newspaper, I arranged a focus group with a dozen Caltech students. Here's what I learned. At Caltech, hookups aren't even part of the dating vernacular. As one woman told me, the guys are never going to get into a situation where they're hooking up every night because the girls just won't go for it. When Caltech students get involved romantically, it's almost always in the context of a relationship. Students told me it was extremely common for couples who got together freshman year to stay together all 4 years.
Because there's more men. Here we go.
One young woman told me that when she was a freshman, an advisor in her freshman dorm urged her not to rush into her first college relationship. She told me, "You'll probably end up marrying the guy." On a lark, I asked the Caltech students what Valentine's Day was like there. The answer I got was kind of equally adorable and flabbergasting. One young man told me with tremendous enthusiasm that his dorm, Lloyd House, has a long-standing Valentine's Day tradition. It turns out all the men make handcrafted Valentines for the women.
Wow. So romantic.
And then they wake up at the crack of dawn to cook the women pancakes.
Oh, look at the lady down there to the left. She loving it. Like, oh, so sweet. The men have to court us because we're in such short supply.
What stories like these so clearly demonstrate is that dating culture truly is more monogamous when women are scarce. After college, one place where you really see this play out is in Silicon Valley. Which is basically the only well-populated part of the country where young college grad men outnumber young college grad women by a significant margin. Geographically, Santa Clara County, California, is a pretty good proxy for Silicon Valley. The county seat, San Jose, is often referred to as Man Jose by the locals, and with really good reason.
So if you guys don't know just a little bit of history, Santa Clara, that area, they always rank as the highest, around the highest median income in the United States. And it's because of the fact that there's, Silicon Valley, a lot of tech stuff going on there. And when you have a lot of tech stuff going, men tend to fall into those professions. So you have a lot of men there. which drives the median income up. I believe it was recently replaced, if my research serves me correctly. Give me a second. I'll give you the city where it's higher now, but it's still about the same. Hold on, I'm going to give you. Yeah, Santa Clara County has the highest median income of any county. Recent ACS data rankings put Loudoun County, Virginia, at or near number 1. Santa Clara is very high, but not the highest.
Among single college-educated people, 22 to 29, Santa Clara County has 38% more single men than women. And this oversupply of men affects dating and marriage in really predictable ways. Among college grads in their 30s, 78% of the women in Santa Clara County are married.
78%. Them dudes snatching them up, ain't they?
That compares to 48% in Washington, D.C., 58% in Chicago, and 46% in Boston. What's even more interesting is those marriages in Silicon Valley, they're more stable too. Only 4% of Santa Clara County's college grad women aged 30 to 39 are divorced or separated.
Did y'all hear that? Now, when men don't have as many options, then they get married. They kind of don't have a choice because they're competing, right? But ladies, and I want you guys to think about this, if everybody naked on social media, and we know that damn near every single woman got a price, and these men are making money out here and they can pay the extra $40 a week just to get a little bit, why would they settle down? And it's been something that I've been saying on this channel for a while. If men are able to get what they want from women in regards to sex without committing to them, what incentive do they have to settle down? It only makes sense. Okay, let's consider. Fair use. Here we go.
4%. Nationally, it's 9%. Men must also make a greater financial commitment when women are scarce. There's an economics professor at MIT, a guy named Joshua Angrist, who studied immigrant communities in the late 1800s and early 1900s, back when immigrants to the US were disproportionately men. What Angrist found was that men needed to earn more in order to attract a wife. The married men earn 10% more than the men who are unmarried. This is just as true today.
It still rings true today.
There is an undersupply of men in the college-educated dating pool. That obviously means there's an oversupply in the non-college or working-class dating pool. In fact, among Americans aged 22 to 29 who did not have a college degree, there are now 9.4 million single men versus only 7.1 million single women. This woman deficit, so to speak, within the working class plays out exactly how Professor Angrist's research suggests it should. Among non-college men aged 25 to 30 who are fully employed, the ones who are married earn 20% more than the ones who are unmarried.
That's crazy, right?
Circling back to Silicon Valley, the reason Santa Clara County has more men, obviously, is because the high-tech industry employs so many engineers and programmers, professions that, for better or for worse, tend to attract more men.
And I think, when you hear tech in that profession, you always think of men. And that's why you see a lot of soft life content creators. They'll tell women to go to those tech conferences. Like we just had Afro Tech here. And it was a lot of soft life ladies telling women, hey, you got Afro Tech here. It's going to be a lot of tech men from all across the country. Need to go there because they're making the money, right? It's funny. They're trying. But once you get into those men's spaces, are you able to stick? Can you stay? And that's the real, issue instead of just giving up booty. Okay. Fair use.
Santa Clara County also happens to boast the highest median income of any county in the United States. Now, I'm not going to suggest that median incomes out there would be merely average were it not for the shortage of women. However, I do believe that wealth creation in Silicon Valley has been supercharged by this shortage of women. Listen to what Tom Summit, a tech industry executive recruiter in Boston, listen to the advice that Tom Summit gives to men employed in Boston's high-tech sector. Quote, Countless venture capitalists, pundits, and most anybody else involved in the Silicon Valley startup scene will ask you, when are you moving out here? This is where it's happening. They want you, they need you, and they will own your butt. Because what they don't tell you is that you will have nothing else to occupy your attention and keeping you from working 80 hours a week, cranking code with your nose in a computer screen. Why?
Why do y'all think?
There are no women to...
You hear that? Hold on, let's go back. You're going to be working hard and making ducats because there ain't no women there.
Why? Because there are no women to distract you from your tasks.
Go back to George. Go back to what George, he didn't have the distraction of sex hanging over his head, so he started to get more intelligent. So he's like, hey, you gonna work out here because there ain't no women. And again, like, it's so fascinating conversation. Even in the military, it's the same way. When you go to a smaller base, you see a lot of guys complain and ain't no women there. But when there's not that many women, or it's not a big city, that's where most men tend to either make rank or they start to focus on their college education. I've noticed that in the military. Okay, so that's crazy, right?
Another place where you really clearly see the economic impact of too few women is China. As most of you probably know, China's old one-child policy caused an increase in sex selection, abortion, female infanticide, and the foreign adoption of many Chinese girls. All of this present day has created a shortage of marriage-age women. There are now 122 young men in China for every 100 young women.
Now that's a significant gap, and I think the Black community was under the impression that that's how it is here. No, it's for every 100 Black men, there's 106 Black women. Now compare that to China, 122 for every 100 men. That's a large gap, not ours. Okay, let's continue.
As a result, Chinese women now possess tremendous economic bargaining power when it comes to marriage.
They make money.
That means young men and the parents of boys must accumulate greater wealth in order to impress a potential bride.
Now, why do you think they need to acquire more wealth? Because the women, they have more money. Since they're not getting married, they have to work. And while they're working, they might as well go ahead and climb up the ladder. So when they do try and find a husband, which is the same argument that we hear in the Black community, they're like, man, I want a man who's at or above my income level. And again, it makes sense. However, you're removing a large pool of men that could be suitable husbands. But your stopping point is they don't have a degree or they don't make as much money as me. And this could be as simple as her making $90,000 a year and him making $70,000. I mean, hey, there it is. Same thing in China.
Two economists, Shang Jinwei, who's a professor at Columbia University, and Xiaobo Chang, who's a senior economist at the International Food Policy Research Institute here in Washington, they have gone so far as to suggest that this pressure on men and on parents of boys to earn more is responsible for 20% of China's GDP growth. It's gotten to the point where a middle-class bachelor must own his own apartment and a new car in order to be considered husband material in China.
Wow. Is that the same in the Black community?
A story in the LA Times contained this quote from one Chinese bachelorette. "I would rather cry in a BMW than smile on the back of my boyfriend's bicycle."
Hey, did they just quote Future? They quote Future out there in China? Ain't that what Future say?
A more recent story from Bloomberg News contained this even more amazing comment from a young Chinese husband expecting his first child. "I would hope it's a girl," he said, "because boys are too expensive." Now, that is an unbelievable statement when you consider the way Chinese culture has glorified boy babies going back almost 1,000 years. Okay, so now we know what happens when women are scarce.
Let's stop it right there. Now, this is where it gets good. Yes. So he gave the whole story about when women are scarce. Now we finna get into the good stuff.